Hi everyone. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Self-Care Sundays. I'm gonna wait a couple minutes here for other people to join on if they would like to, but in the meantime, I thought we'd just go over kind of what has happened so far. So in session 1, we talked a little bit about progressive muscle relaxation and using that as a method of relaxation. And then in session 2 of Self-Care Sunday, we talked a little bit about we did another meditation. That one I believe was by Suki Baxter. And then last week we did a not so much a meditation, I guess. It was a movement experience. So if you missed any of those and you're interested, go back. They're on my page. The previous ones are always on my page, so feel free to take a look at those and return back to them at any time. Yeah, so now it's session 4 already, which is pretty crazy. So we'll start out like we usually do with a virtue from the Family's Virtues Guide, and then we'll move on to our topic of the day, which is sensory safety. So last week we worked on cleanliness, so if you have any experiences with cleanliness and how that worked and affected you, feel free to leave them in the comments. I noticed that when somebody new was coming over to my home, I felt like I needed to speed clean everything, and it felt like absolutely urgent, and that's not sustainable for my body. So I think in the future what I would choose to do is set aside some time throughout the day before or throughout the day of, so that it's not just down to the last hour of panic cleaning, because cleaning and clean spaces feel great, but not when they're so, I don't know, so immediate. It's okay to take your time with things, you know? So now we're going to move on to the virtue from this week, and the virtue this week is compassion. What is compassion? Compassion is understanding and caring about someone who is in trouble or has made a mistake. It is being kind and forgiving because another person really matters to you. It is feeling sorry when someone is hurt. It might be you and needs someone to understand. It is forgiving someone who hurt you because you understand why they hurt you. And, this is the important part, and you care more about that person than your own hurt. It is feeling pain of someone who's in trouble even if you do not know that person. It is caring deeply and wanting to help, even if all you can do is listen and say kind words. And this is a reminder that compassion is a really lovely thing, and also you need to have compassion towards yourself as well. So if giving your compassion to another person hurts your own self, try to find a little bit of a balance there so that you can continue giving compassion both to yourself and to your surroundings and the people around you. And then it gives a little bit about why to practice compassion. It just says that when people are feeling bad about themselves, or when people are feeling bad or find themselves in trouble, they usually feel very much alone. Feeling alone can make things even worse. At such times, people start to believe that no one understands or cares about them at all. But being compassionate tells a person that they are not alone. And then it continues a little bit on there. And then it gives some examples of how to practice compassion. Maybe listening if somebody wants to talk, sharing your own experiences if you've had a similar one, and doing what you can to help. Even if that's just giving some kind words or some prayers. And then it moves on to signs of success. So signs of success for this week for compassion are if you notice when someone is hurting or needs a friend, if you care enough about them to stop what you are doing and let them know that you care. You listen and try very hard to understand. You forgive them when they hurt you and give them another chance to be a friend instead of hurting them back. And helping people and animals in need. And then it goes on to say if you need more practice, you might not notice when you or the people and animals around you are sad or having trouble. Again, I think that's a really interesting one. You don't notice when you're your own self is having trouble. So, try to give yourself some compassion. Think what you are doing is more important than what is happening to others. When you don't stop to listen or show you care, and when you judge or criticize others and yourself. So that's compassion. The affirmation to close off this virtue for the week is, I have compassion. I notice when someone needs attention and freely offer my help. So I'm going to think a little bit about compassion this week and how it affects me and my surroundings. If you'd like to join me in that, I am always super excited when people choose to join me in practicing a virtue. But if that's not the one that strikes your heart at the moment, feel free to choose a different one if you'd like to practice a virtue this week. So this week, I think I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short and sweet. But this week I had planned sensory self-care. And I wanted to talk about sensory self-care because it's something that has been impacting me quite a bit lately. For better and for worse, when you're thinking about caring for yourself, oftentimes you also see the problems with caring for yourself. So just being aware of that duality is sometimes difficult, and that's okay. So I wanted to start off by talking about sensory overload and anxiety. So when I think about anxiety, in my previous years, I had never really thought about my surroundings. I had thought about, what am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling right now? What is my body telling me? What is my brain telling me? What is my experience? But something that I've come to realize is that if you have any kind of neurodivergence, or just, honestly, I think this is really great for anybody to take a little look at, because I never even thought about it as potentially something that would be causing anxiety, is your sensory experiences. So when I say that I guess I didn't know that I had sensory issues until recently. And that sounds really silly to say, because it's like, come on, if something's uncomfortable, you should feel it, and you should know that that's uncomfortable, and then you can change it, right? But for people who are neurodivergent, or just people who have trouble with determining sensory input, sometimes you don't register it as, oh my gosh, the lights are too bright, because nobody else around you is going, the lights are too bright. So as you grow up and you start to have these sensory experiences and they feel really uncomfortable in your body, and everybody else is just, acting like, it's totally fine, because it is totally fine to them, but to you and your brain and your nervous system, it's not fine. And so you start to kind of learn they're not reacting to that, or you might not even understand that, the lights are too bright. You might just have a sensory experience as in, I feel really uncomfortable and I have a headache right now, or I've got a stomach ache. How when you get super anxious, you get a stomach ache? So a lot of times when I was growing up and I was in these really high sensory environments, and then in addition to trying to eat food while talking to people in a restaurant and being a kid and then having other kids around you, and just experiences like that were kind of a lot for me, so I would get stomach aches all the time. And I still do get stomach aches very frequently, and I would say a good portion of the time I realized that's actually sensory issues. My clothes aren't sitting right on my body, the lights are too bright, things are too loud. My nervous system takes in that information and magnifies it in comparison to how other people might experience it. So I encourage you, if you struggle with anxiety and you don't have a specific thing in your brain that you can figure out, if you're not sitting there and going, oh my gosh, you're not berating yourself, or you're not going down the spiral of, oh my gosh, if I don't get this job, then I'm not going to be able to pay rent, and then I'm not going to be able to survive, and then I'm not going to... If it's not a brain thing like that, which that's totally valid too, and that can be addressed in a lot of different ways, then it might be a body thing, and it might be a sensory thing. So next time that you feel unwell, take a look at your surroundings and see. And just see. Maybe something isn't tolerable for you. And that's okay. I was wearing jeans all day, and I got to a point where I was like, nope, no more jeans for me. No, it's just not gonna happen. And I was feeling so uncomfortable, and then once I put on my comfy clothes, I felt so much better. And so it can just be little things like that. So I want to talk about some little things that we can do. And this leads into kind of the main points of today. And I will absolutely link some more resources for you guys after this when I post it. But there is a really great resource that talks about sensory preferences, sensory triggers, and sensory soothers. So this week, it kind of leads into mindfulness a little bit, which we'll get further into. I want you to think about what things are triggering to your nervous system that are sensory experiences, and what things are calming. And those are usually kind of opposites, but not always. So if you can create kind of a list, like let's think about it. Okay, so maybe what kind of lighting do I not like? I personally really don't like fluorescent lights. I am not a huge fan of like overhead lights. I like more soft lighting. So my preferences are more towards the soft lighting. Okay, so what are some tools that I could use throughout my day to get those experiences? I could use a lamp. I could use sunglasses, for example. If you're really sensitive to loud noises, you can put on headphones. And if you really like loud noises, you can still put on headphones and listen to some music. And it might just be whether they're noise canceling or music, and sometimes blocking out certain noises and putting others is really helpful as well. So those are some really obvious examples. But there's a lot to that. I mean, there's so many different senses that we have. It even comes down to, taste and smell. Maybe you want to have some essential oils and just experience that sense. So when we think about sensory preferences, a lot of those sensory preferences, which you can explore over the next week, I really want you to just take some time and find some sensory experiences that feel good. Like, just take a minute or two each day. It really doesn't take that long. You can do it anywhere. And find a sensory experience that feels really good. So you can use things like a weighted blanket, but even if you're out and about, you can choose to do things like, oh, I'm gonna massage my own hand and just see how that feels, or massage my own neck if you like more pressure, right? So you can do things like that. Or you can choose, oh, I want my hair up or down. Or I'm not going to wear makeup today because I don't like the way it feels on my face. Or anything. Just try to find something with your sensory experience and really notice how it impacts your mood and your body. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out is that sometimes you'll find that these things have sensory triggers as well. So if you go into an environment and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so anxious. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know why I'm so anxious. And then you realize, oh, there is this sensory experience that I'm having. Maybe I'm in a large crowd and it's really overwhelming visually and it's really loud. And I can't get out of that right now. But I know that after this is over, I can go sit in my car and take some deep breaths, and I cannot put on music on the way home, and I can just enjoy that sensory soothing experience. So like I said, I will link those information, that link, in the comments after this. But this week, I just want you to find something that sensory-wise feels really good and notice what doesn't feel good. And then the other thing is sometimes having a basket of sensory soothing items can be really helpful. So if you already have things that you really like, definitely put them all kind of together so that when you are in a really anxious state, if you have time and the opportunity to go back to these items and let yourself experience that sensory soothing items, then typically that can kind of help the anxiety go down quite a lot as well. For example, I have my headphones I just upgraded. They're awesome. And then some other sensory soothing items that I really like is I have like this putty, and I have some fidget toys and just like some random stuff in here. I mentioned them before. These are, sorry, that was kind of loud, so I had to open it before I show them. This is an acupressure ring. So what I typically do is you can run them up and down your fingers, and it gives kind of like a spiky, pointy sensation. They're really inexpensive on Amazon, but that can be another thing if you're having really intense sensory experiences and you need to focus on something. These can be really great. So just noticing those things. You can also notice things like temperature. Do you prefer things to be warmer or cooler? I prefer warm, even in the summer. I like being warm, so I use things like heating pads. But if you don't, if you prefer cool, there's things like cooling pillows or ice packs. So yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear what some of your sensory preferences are. So if you already know what's some sensory preferences that you have and some sensory soothing experiences that you've had, please share them in the comments, because these can be really, really diverse. And then if you have anything that you really, really don't like, that's also really interesting to know. At this point, that's everything that I had today. Just kind of a short little spiel, because this is more something that you can do throughout the week. So I don't want to make this too long. But yeah, let me know. Come back to the post throughout the week, I guess, and say what you're finding. And then let me know what you think about compassion as well. If you have any comments on compassion and what that means to you. Okay. I think I'm going to end it here. I hope that you all have a lovely night and a lovely week, and I will see you again next week. I think that next week we're going to do some more mindfulness practices and a little bit more grounding techniques and that kind of a thing. So if you're interested in that, join me next week. Thanks so much. Love you all. Have a good night.